so we've done hair tests on infants that have just barely enough hair to do it. And they're crying incessantly. No one can figure out, and they're like, well, I've already done a hair test myself.
So is testosterone something that you can get from a hair sample?
No, not directly, but sort of indirectly. You get to see a zinc and copper ratio, and when you know a lot about this ratio, and then you look at all the other areas, and then you do some asking around, and you also look at before and after. So let's say this: if the zinc to copper ratio was below normal, and then now it's increased, there's a very good chance that the testosterone, which we don't claim to check, that's not one of the selling points of the test, but we get an insight to it, certainly, yeah. And so if it was terrible, like you had very high copper, especially as a man, but also as a woman, very high copper and very low zinc, and so your ratio was very low overall, then now test 2, 3, or 4, you've greatly improved that and sort of tipped the scales in the other direction. There's a good chance that there's a like incredibly high chance that your testosterone is improved. Yeah, if you're not doing a intervention, then, which we don't recommend those things, then you've improved, and you've improved in a natural way that is where your body should be.
Let's talk a little bit about heavy metal toxicity, right? So that's something that comes through in a hair test. What's the prevalence of this? Like, how much is there in all these hair tests that you guys are doing?
I think what you're asking is, so correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying like how many people do we see have heavy metal exposure that should be rectified? I would say 95% or more. Probably conservatively 95%.
And then you have a product that works to address that. Is that also kind of get the minerals right so the body can manage the toxins right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly. Think of it as like good soldiers versus bad. So the more, sort of like in the microbiome, when we think of like improving the gut health by, improving, good bacteria, and that crowding out the bad. When you have minerals, I have this phrase of saying minerals play offense and defense. So they both protect you from metals. So part of the reason I got bogged down early in my 20s is for years, my whole life leading up to this, and this is why people can not feel great early in life. Even as a child, jaundice is like copper toxicity downloaded from the mother to the child's liver, and so they turn yellow, and as a result. So detox can be needed at any age. We've helped infants detox even, and so we've done hair tests on infants that have just barely enough hair to do it, and they're crying incessantly. No one can figure out what's, and they're like, well, I've already done a hair test myself. Let's do one on the child. Sure enough, boom, we find that, we start to address that. So at every age, this can be a thing. And so I created a product that has 4 different binder sizes and affinities, so electromagnetically. And so it binds to different metals, so mercury, lead, arsenic, things like that. There's silica in there, which is a gentle, silica is amazing. So I'm putting that out in a really advanced vitamin D formulation soon too. People just need more silica for sure.
And all those, again, kind of 10 nanometer scale as they're coming out.
Well, in the Detox product, it's not all that size. We have a few different sizes in there. We have something on the nano-sized scale, one of the ingredients, but then some of the others aren't but that's by design. And then a really cool part that I actually discovered just recently was that, we have activated carbon, activated charcoal in there as well, among, others. And, the carbon, we think of that as like, oh, well, that's just going to, just like charcoal, it's going to help bind with stuff and excrete it, right? Sort of like a bouncer, like grabs people they're fighting and throws them out the bar, sort of thing. Well, what it does is actually the carbon, in a good way, becomes part of the bone matrix. So you can get better bone health through that. And I'm sure better organ structure and tissue and things as well. Well, yeah, that's something I just discovered recently.
Interesting. So, taking an activated charcoal, the stomach acid is activated carbon. Is the stomach acid is actually breaking down those structures and absorbing some of the actual carbon. In this case, it would probably be, actually graphene lattices.
Probably, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, graphene is showing to be. I mean, I know there's a lot of buzz about graphene oxide and injections, but that's a very different issue when you compare it to just graphene without the oxide. Very substantially different, chemical makeup, substantially different processes and chemical reactions.
You know what's interesting about that though? If you have carbon and you have oxygen and you have all the other elements that are needed to create a chemical reaction, there's a total level of just body magic that happens that we totally don't understand. So there's a transmutation of elements that happens, certainly, that we just do not even begin to understand yet at this level of awareness, which is, you put in potassium and then, a lot of other things improve. Almost everyone's low in potassium too, like 99% of people. And so that's a big thing that we offer too. And so, yes, it supports adrenal health and muscle contraction and nerve function and things, but then it definitely also does other things that by putting it in, you get all these derivative effects that are positive. And that's why I love this area.
Very cool.